Hi, everyone. My name is Sasha Gorbasew. I'm a third horn player with London Symphonia. And I have the great pleasure of speaking with Julie Shier, who plays in the bassoon section with London Symphonia. Typically, Julie plays second bassoon, but on the next coming show on January 27th, she'll be playing principal bassoon. So how are you, Julie?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks. So this program coming up next weekend on the 27th of January is really interesting for a number of reasons. I think it's the first time we're doing a piano concerto in the new Metropolitan United Church space. So it'll be interesting to see on stage how that's going to affect the logistics and the seating. So it'll be interesting for us to experience that. And we also have a piece that's probably very unfamiliar to a lot of folks, and I know it's unfamiliar to a lot of musicians, a symphony by Louise Farrenc. So Julie, how long have you been playing with London Symphonia?
I've been playing since the start of London Symphonia. I used to be a regular sub with Orchestra London, and in fact, that's what drew me to move to London 20 years ago, because I was playing here so often. And then once the Orchestra London dissolved and we started up as We Play On, I was playing quite often with them because our regular second bassoonist, Dave Hayward, retired. So they needed somebody to come in and fill in. And so that was me. So I'm very lucky to have been included in the new London Symphony. So.
And it's wonderful to play along with you as a member of the back row. So we get to see each other quite often, which is great. So what's interesting about this program for you? So what's kind of unique about this program?
For me, I've never played anything by Louise Farrenc. In fact, I'm not sure I'd ever heard of her before. So, so it's a brand new piece for me. But because it was written in in the mid 19th century, it's really it's not like new music the way we think of new music. It's really of a style of that period, and it's so I had to learn about it from scratch, not from my recollections. Oh yes, I played this before. So for me, that's it's a brand new piece. I think it probably is for all of us. So I was able to find a recording on YouTube just so that I can kind of have an idea of the tempos and stuff. And then when I got my part, I listened again with the part and tried to figure out where my part fit into in the general scheme of things, and it's going to be a really fun piece to play, I think.
Yeah, it's quite a lovely piece. Are there any particular challenges in this piece for you on your instrument, or kind of for your section, or the part of the woodwinds in the orchestra in general?
Yeah, I think the first two movements look like they're going to fit together pretty easily. There's a lot of fun little solos for the woodwinds. Oh my gosh, she gave us a lot of little there's a lot of dovetailing in between the different instruments, so that's going to be really fun. The third movement is quite fast, the scherzo, so there's a lot of really fast timing sections in there that I'm still working on. Yeah, and then in the last movement as well, there's a little woodwind chorale sort of towards the end. There's I believe there's like the orchestra is playing quite loud, and then there's a fugue where like all the theme comes in at different instruments at different times, and it all comes to a halt, and the woodwinds take over this little. It's almost like chamber music for a little section. So that's going to be a lot of fun to put together. So to me, I don't think it's going to be really hard to play, except for maybe the third movement where there's a lot of really fast notes.
Yeah. So some technical challenges for you
yeah.
in particular. Yeah. It is a lovely piece, and there's a lot of great writing. And it's I'm shocked that it's only come up now in our careers as musicians and in London. So it's quite nice that we do have a chance to play it. And it's interesting, just going through Jeff Wall's notes about this concert coming up. There's some similarities to the Beethoven symphony that we ended last season with, the second symphony, the key and just kind of the general style. So it's kind of interesting. So that there's a continuity a little bit from last season, which is nice.
It actually reminds me a bit of Schubert, maybe that kind of style of writing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that as well. So that's a interesting observation. So how long does it typically take you to prepare a program? And maybe a little bit different in this particular case, because there's a new piece and you're playing principal bassoon on this program. So I'm assuming it's a bit more preparation and a bit more care is kind of going into this particular concert.
Absolutely. So the principal players generally have more solos. So not that solos are harder, they're just a bit more. You need to take more care of them. So if I was playing second bassoon, I would learn my part, but then just not worry about anything soloistic. So for me, a few weeks of listening to the music just so that I have it in my head, figuring out what's important, finding a good read that'll work on the solos that are here. So yeah, a good couple of weeks of going through the music and playing it through. But before that, just listening to it and trying to figure out the flow of the piece.
Yeah. So when did you start working on this program? I know you have other concerts and other musical responsibilities and otherwise, but typically, how long does it take you to prepare a new program?
I'd like to get the music as early as possible, just so that I know what I need to concern myself with. So a month would be great. I think the music was available to us online about a month ago, and so, but I just got my physical part just a few days ago. Whoever had played this piece previously, might have been a youth orchestra or something, had written in a whole bunch of unnecessary accidentals and stuff. So I went with my eraser and took them all out. I might have to put them back in, you never know, but I don't like looking at somebody else's marking. So it's nice to have the physical parts so that I can, read it myself, write stuff in that I need to, practice the page turns and so forth. So.
That's an interesting point that you bring up, that a lot of audience members may not know that we get music that maybe has traveled around the world or has been played in many places. And often whoever happened to be playing it before would have made notes. And a lot of times those notes will live on for the next orchestra or the last time you played a piece yourself. So it's interesting to see. And I've come across orchestral parts where people have put, their name and the date that they played it. And there's a bit of a history on the actual sheet music. So it's quite humorous at times. And sometimes people will put notes to themselves in that are quite funny, or sometimes they're mistaken. So that's just an extra level of preparation or fixing that the musicians need to make. So that's an interesting point that you had to do a bit of erasing on your part just to make it suitable for this particular concert.
Well, there's one place, I guess there was a key change and somebody had circled it and written A major, major, A major, A major, and then put all the sharps in. Like, okay, one time is good.
Yeah.
So.
Perhaps that particular person had a stern talking to by the conductor at the time. So maybe that's a result of that.
When we come to rehearsing it, I might need to add a few more reminders myself, but for right now, I'm confident that I can get the key change there.
You'll catch that. Good. I'm confident you will too. So you mentioned reeds. So that's something that, as someone in the brass section, I can look over and I see reed cases open up and, instruments going together. Talk to me about reeds and what are the challenges as living in Canada in January. Obviously, we've got fluctuations in temperature and weather. How does that affect you preparing for a concert, and how could that affect you the day of a concert?
Right. So yeah, this is the reed. So I make these myself. They're made out of like a cane, so it's like a very soft wood. We have to soak them up when we're playing them, so they're wet. And so after 2 or 3 weeks of playing, they tend to start getting soft, and then they don't vibrate the way they're supposed to. I mean, really, for the whole bassoon, this is the most important part because this is the part that actually produces the sound. So if you don't have a reed that's working great, so if once it gets old, it doesn't sound very good. So then you have to get a new reed going. So it makes it sound easier than it is. So I actually have a whole bunch of reeds that I've made. A lot of them, they all work to varying degrees. So the idea is to find a reed that's going to work for what I'm going to play. And yes, when it's really cold out, it's dry, so the reeds don't want to vibrate as much. So that often changes their response as well. So if I was playing a lot of low stuff, say if I was doing second bassoon, I had to play very low and quiet, I might get a different reed that would do that differently. It's hard to find one reed that'll play low and quiet and high and soloistic. So in this case, I found a reed that is going to be able to play very nicely in the mid-range. So yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't that'll hold through for another week.
Interesting. I noticed there was some color changes on the reeds are different colors. Is that on purpose or is that just for show, or what?
Oh,
Explain to me
it's
what
me.
that's about.
Yeah, that's just me. I like to give them personalities. So
Yeah.
it's just different thread that I use when I make them. And I just happen to have about 12 different colors. So I mix them up. It helps me to identify. That way, when I look in the case, I know, oh yeah, it's the purple and blue, and that's the one I'm going to use. I also number them just in case.
Right.
So I like to keep track of when I made it. Then I'll write in my little logbook, how did it sound? What did I play it on? How long did it last? And then once they're spent, like I no longer want to play on them, I actually sell them to my students.
Okay.
So what's not good enough for me is still fine for
Right.
a young player who needs something that's easy to blow, but doesn't have maybe the best sound, but it still works.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you know a reed's kind of at the end of its road? Like, what is it about a reed? Is it just the sound or the feel? How do you know when a reed has kind of finished its life with you on the stage?
Yeah, it's a combination of it when it starts to sound kind of nasally, maybe just doesn't have the in the depth of the sound, and also the response. Sometimes it just doesn't want to attack when you ask it to, and also it tends to go a little flat. So for me, on my instrument, the E natural, which is just in the middle of the bass clef staff, if that starts to sag, that means that reed is kind of sad. So yeah, so then it's towards the end of its life. Yeah.
So that's just a whole different level of care and things to worry about and think about preparing and just actually performing a concert. Do you find yourself changing reeds kind of mid-concert, like between two pieces? Will you change reeds, or do you typically start with one reed and just kind of do the whole show on one reed?
Almost all the time I play the same show on the one reed because I'm used to it. Like if you change reeds, then your embouchure is a little bit different. Like, and so if you change a reed and you're not quite prepared, then the note, it just doesn't have the right sound to it. So I have changed reeds before if I'm playing a piece, like I said, that's really low, another piece that's really high. So I might need a different reed for that. But for most of the time, I just play on the same reed and hope the best.
Yeah. So you talked about the weather, how that affects reeds. You showed us your reed box. What are some other facts about the bassoon that maybe people don't know that would be of
So if you're not familiar with bassoon, yeah, this is it. And so most of it is there's a lot of metal on here, obviously the keys, but the body of the instrument is maple wood, and it doesn't like temperature changes. So it's not really a great idea, for example, to leave your bassoon in the car if you go for lunch or something. So, or even just walking from my car to the hall in the cold, I might let it warm up gradually before I start blowing hot air through it. Because when we are playing, then you end up with a lot of, hot air, and then you get condensation inside as well. So it sounds like spit, but it's really just the moisture in the hot air. So yeah, we really try to avoid temperature changes. Bassoons are not as susceptible to cracking as much as like oboes and clarinets are, because those are very thin-walled. We're a little bit more resilient. Our like the wood is I don't know, a quarter of a centimeter, say, thick. So it's really not as thin as other instruments, but you still want to try to, take good care of it so there's no wide temperature changes.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced a crack in a bassoon through your professional life? Have you ever had to deal with that?
Yeah, I do have a couple of cracks, but they're not going all the way through, so it's not an issue. We just kind of have to keep an eye on it and make sure that it doesn't go. Yeah, there's a couple down here. That's okay. It's only when it cracks all the way through and it starts to leak. That's bad news. So that can happen very easily to oboes and clarinets, just because they're such thin-walled, and they use a different kind of wood, grenadilla, which doesn't like the cold.
So what happens, say an oboe player was, if they get a crack? I mean, are they kind of finished? Like, do they just need to get a different instrument? Can they be repaired? What happens if that happens in the middle of a concert? How do you deal with that?
I'm not sure. In the middle of a concert, it does affect their sound, so they maybe have to switch instruments or something. I'm not sure. for the most part, depending on where the crack is, they can be repaired. But then it's not as good for the instrument to have a lot of patches on your, a lot of repairs on your instrument. It kind of diminishes the sound, I think.
Sure.
So we really try to avoid playing if it's too cold. It can handle the heat, like if we're playing outside, but cold is really not a good thing for it. Yeah.
So that sounds like it keeps you busy, just kind of preparing programs, performing programs. I know you play in other places besides London Symphonia. So what do you do outside of playing the bassoon? What kind of things, how do you occupy your time?
Oh, in my free time, I love hiking. In the winter, I love cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, skating, downhill skiing. I love all that stuff. In the summer, if I have time, love to be camping, out on the water, canoeing, kayaking, anything that I can to be outside in nature. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
So I do take a bit of time off, usually over the summer, and try to get away and enjoy nature. And then when I come back, it's like a fresh start again in the fall.
Refreshed, mentally and physically refreshed. And with the weather these days, we can finally get caught up on all of our winter activities, winter sports.
Yeah, I wish I had time. I would love to be outside skiing right now, but unfortunately, I have 2 rehearsals today, so not going to happen today, but hopefully sometime soon. I'm probably the one rare person who wants the cold temperatures to stay for a bit, so until I have a chance to go out and do some winter sports.
Might as well embrace the weather where we are.
Yeah.
Well, Julie, thanks so much sharing your kind of journey and kind of the challenges of playing the bassoon in the winter. I look forward to seeing you next week, and look forward to seeing our audience next week. Saturday, January 27th, Chopin's Piano Concerto No. 1 with Janina Fialkowska, and Louise Farrenc Symphony No. 2 in D major. It should be a great show. I think the concert's selling really well, so if people want to come see it, they should get on it right away if they want to get a ticket, or if they want to purchase a live stream, they can experience the concert that way. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you next week on stage as we start rehearsals, and we'll have a wonderful concert.
Thank you, Sasha.
Take
Looking
care.
forward to seeing you. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good to see you. Thanks.